Kia ora, everybody. New Zealand's pretty much 2 degrees of separation, and we've got that out of the way. Josh, Komen and I do have 2 degrees of separation within New Zealand, but funnily enough, this recommendation came through Australia, another 2 degree of separation. When I first spoke with Mark, he said, mate, you've got to get Josh Komen on the podcast. And then I talked to him again before we had the Wim Hof experience. Oh, have you caught up with Josh yet? And I said, oh, yeah, it's on the to-do list, Mark. And then I went to the Wim Hof experience and said, mate, you've got to read the book. You've got to catch up with Josh. He's an absolute legend. Mate, I listened to Guy Lawrence's podcast, and I don't know if it was the first thing he said to you, but what you said in that podcast was you were at Fifth Element Wellness and you heard across the room, Joshy, you're alive, mate. Tell us about that whole experience and why Mark Clure was surprised and relieved that you were still alive and still on this earth.
He's an infectious man, old Mark Clure. I love him to bits. So our friendship kind of began when I worked through Fifth Element Doors back 3 years ago. There was a whole heap of issues that I had prior we can talk about later, but what brought me through that door is I attended the Wim Hof retreat, the first one that was getting established in Melbourne, and I was really excited and looking forward to it, and I was embracing this new method that Wim was kind of advocating around. And so I went to the retreat, and unfortunately I spent the night there, and I didn't really meet anyone. I sat with Lars and had a chat with him, and then the morning I woke up and I had a heart attack, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I was struggling and I was fighting, and I had another heart attack. And Guy Lawrence, who you just mentioned, he was the one who come and held my hand and it was saying, it's going to be okay, we'll get you an ambulance. And I got wheeled out to Geelong Hospital to find out what was going on. I didn't even meet Mark Clure at that time, and I got wheeled to Geelong Hospital and then to Peter McCullum Cancer Centre where I was getting treatment, and then finally to the Royal Melbourne Cardiac Unit where I spent 28 days there. And I had probably about a dozen heart attacks before they made a decision on whether to put a stent in my left main artery or give me a heart bypass. They weren't too sure, just due to my disease. And finally they stented the left main artery, and I was up and running. I sent a thank you message out to Guy Lawrence, and I said, hey mate, thanks very much for helping me get to here, get me to the hospital and things like that. And he sent this podcast back with the legend himself, Dave O'Brien. And he has this facility, amazing facility called Fifth Element Wellness. And once he started talking with Guy on the podcast, it was like music to my ears in a way. He was speaking about neutrophils and eosinophils and basophils and all these things that I've learned through the medical realm, but he was talking about applying it into gut health. And I said, I've just got to go see this guy and see what he's about. And so I went down to Fitzroy and I was walked through the doors, and the first man I see was this man, big bulky man with a scraggy beard. He looked like a pirate. He was so excited. It looked like he found his treasure, and he was just so pumped up. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and he just goes, Joshy, is that you? Is that you, mate? And I said, yes, in a very polite way. And I had no idea who he was. He goes, mate, I've been wondering how you are. I've been wondering how you are, mate. He just picks me up with 2 hands and he goes, you're a bloody legend, and gives me I'm so glad you're okay. And then all of a sudden our friendship kind of developed from there.
No, he's a special human, and thankfully we've had him on here a couple of times so people can relate to that voice of, oh, mate, you're okay.
Yeah. My brother's actually, he goes and works with them a bit now and then up at the block there, and he's always sending me Snapchats and videos and stuff of what they're up to, mate, and it's just antics. He's just an absolute amazing human, and he's a real advocate for men's health, and especially that older middle-aged men age bracket, getting the best out of them. He came over for my book launch here, and here he is taking my old man, who's that kind of stereotypical middle-aged man, very stubborn, drinks heaps of beer and sits on the couch and watches his TV. He had him down the 10 mile in the river, walked uphill, and he's like, all right, mate, we're doing some meditation. And my old man's all pumped up, and we're just like, what did you do to him, Mark? You cast a spell on him. So that's the kind of person he is. He can just come into your life and just give you so much enthusiasm, and enthusiasm spreads enthusiasm. And that's what Mark essentially does. He's just an absolute wonderful human.
Mate, you said that when you got to the hospital back to the cancer unit, they were in 2 minds about what to do with you. Was that just for the fact that they didn't want to put you under more stress and more surgery, or they sort of went with this safest route of going a catheter? But what was their decision there?
It was more to the disease I had, Ryan. I had graft versus host disease. So essentially it's the T lymphocytes and are sending signals to attack my epithelial cells, which are obviously in your skin and all your linings of your arteries and things like that. So they weren't too sure opening me up and things like that, doing a heart bypass would be the appropriate action. In the case, because I had a blockage in the left main, that's a normal procedure.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too frequent to put a stent in that area. So yeah, there was discussion back and forth, and there were all these different teams talking about what they should and shouldn't do. And then finally I had this heart attack, and I just turned the ECGs upside down, and I was just in agonizing pain. Luckily I didn't go into cardiac arrest, thank God for that. And then one doctor said, no, I'm just going to stent him. And he just stepped up, made the decision, went out. I was in the cath lab, and boom, we were done. Yeah.
So with that, I'm quite lucky that I'm quite fresh on this. I was listening to a Peter Attia podcast with a guy in a main cath lab, I think at Johns Hopkins. So he's top of the list in terms of doing the thing. Did that heal up all right? I heard you saying to the guy that you had another couple of heart attacks after, or was it? Did the stent heal up all right, or what was
the stent was great, worked well. Once it was in, the pain was just basically gone, like vanished. And I was out walking, but slowly my disease had taken over me, so I had to kind of get myself back on treatment regime over at Peter Mac and get my body into an adequate position so I could function. Yeah. But no, it's good.
Yeah, let's go down your road a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Tell us how the Wim Hof experience fits into an adjunctive treatment for cancer.
Yeah, well, it goes back quite a way. It took me a while to get to the Wim Hof retreat. That was probably 7 years in the process. But do you want to talk about how it goes in conjunction with my treatment now, or do you want to talk about the background story of getting there, or?
We'll start with how it goes with your treatment now, and then we'll move back from that. Yeah,
100%. So I've been doing this Wim Hof method for about 3 years now. So just ice baths, breathing, and meditation on a frequent basis. And I'm a true advocate. I mean, I'm not saying it's a cure for cancer patients or graft versus host disease, but to combine together, it makes a profound impact on decreasing the inflammatory response in your body. I mean, for me personally, I suffered with a lot of depression, a lot of mental issues. And for me, going into a cold shower or an ice bath, I just felt like 10 men. I felt like my old running self, my fit, strong self again. And for that, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours afterwards, I just felt so empowered. And I thought, shivers, the first time I had my cold shower, I thought, I'm feeling this good from a cold shower. That's, and then all of a sudden my signaling through my body's changing, these positive feelings, and I'm more directed, I'm more focused, and I'm not sleeping in. I'm doing a lot more things that are helping my body out. So in regards to that, it's huge. It's huge. And also too, like once I started it, my immune system, I get blood results every kind of 2 to 3 weeks while I'm getting treatment and stuff. And my neutrophils started coming back up. I wasn't immunocompromised, and I didn't go back to hospital for any sickness. I take immunosuppressants and a lot of medication that suppress my immune system. And I was in and out of hospital on a regular basis, just with different infections and bacteria and viruses. But once I established this method, that was eliminated. It was basically gone. And that's a lot of other things that I've incorporated as well that's got to do with it too. But, the Wim Hof method for me, is really changed my life in a way, big way.
Mate, you said that you dealt with the big D word that's common within New Zealand now, within New Zealand Man, and where I've moved to the new practice. I was talking with one of the behavioural optometrists there, and he's just flabbergasted that we've got this massive condition affecting men in New Zealand. But when you've gone from someone that's pushing the limits in terms of their health, and then turned around and have that all taken away, what's that sort of like? So talk us about the place that you're in with your running and your fitness, and then what slowly took you away from that, and like I said, takes away who you are.
Yeah. So that was back in 2011. That year I was ranked New Zealand's fastest 800 meter runner. I was in the form of my life, and I had the Commonwealth Games in my sights, and I was the fittest and strongest that I've ever been. I was 23 years old. And, basically at that age, you're young, dumb, and you just feel invincible. And, I had a lot going for myself. And then 3 months later, after my first race, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and it just took me into a whole different realm. I mean, physically, I did suffer, but I understood, physical pain, but I didn't understand mental pain, the tirade that was going inside my mind. And I never really had any negative thoughts towards myself, essentially, but I just looked at myself in the mirror and hated who I was. I was weak. I was pathetic. I was a loser. I was just a nobody. And I had cancer, like people like me don't have cancer, and, just negative. It was a bombarding of just negative thoughts, and I just couldn't escape it. So for me to escape it, for me to be in control, was to, essentially take my own life. And I came to that one night when I was out of hospital. I thought, no, I've had enough of this. I can't take it. During the day, it's nice to see your friends, but at night when you sleep, man, it's just like an alarm bell going off and you're screaming at yourself. So I just walked to the balcony one night and said, no, let's go. And then walked out. It was a nice crisp night. It was midwinter, and I felt this. I've always had a deep connection to nature. And then this night, the wind hit my right hand on my face and it swept me around. And I looked back and I saw my mum's cup of tea, and I felt the pure love embrace me from my mother in that moment. And I said to myself, I can't do this to my mum. I can't put the feelings that I'm feeling inside myself on my mum. So I walked back slowly and I just sat down and I just cried hysterically. My fingers went into my bald head, and I was just ripping my, just piercing my skin, and I was just crying and crying and crying. I was like, what was I doing? And I just needed to reach out and ask for help to try and get some mental clarity of what was going on.
So obviously your treatment's a busy schedule. How does reaching out and what does it involve, and what does it sort of undertake? Is it for you, was it sort of a slow series of things, or it's something that just sort of you had one little click and a few more things started to click in?
No, well, I mean, it took that point for me to just understand this is not okay. What I'm doing is not okay. So when I had my running background, I was like, I need serious help. So you normally talk to your coach. I didn't have a coach. So luckily in New Zealand, we have great foundations, and there was one called Canteen. And they assist people with young people living with cancer. And the lady actually come in and she said, can we do anything for you? And I normally said, no, like to food, to anything. I said, no, thanks. And this occasion she'd come in and I said, can I talk to a psychologist? Can I talk to someone? And they organised that, and he was just an amazing man. And basically his words were, it's not you that wanted to die, Josh. It's the situation that you want to die. Focus on that. The pain that you're feeling is life. Embrace that, turn it into a positive, and try and get through it, and it's, this situation will soon pass, just get through this situation. Yeah, it's not you that wanted to die, because I still had a lot of life left in me. I just didn't see it. Yeah, so he helped me establish that again.
And what were some little tools that you did to try reinforce those sorts of factors in your head? Because I know negative self-talk's a bastard. I think it gets on top of you.
It does, yeah. I mean, for one, I started writing a lot. I, Josh Komen, love myself for who I am right now in this situation. And I wrote that 70 times every day, 70 times every day. And I wrote that out. I read a lot of books, got into books. I started reading a lot and started just meditating. I started visualizing a lot more like I did when I was running. And I just focused at myself in a healthy condition, doing the things I loved again. So, and a combination of those things. And I focused a lot of love on my mum. She embraced that on me, and I focused on her a lot too.
Beautiful. Yeah. No, that sounds, something that's pretty achievable in simple steps.
Yeah, they are right now. I mean, I look back and I've had a lot of discussions about it with people, and for me, reading books and hearing other people's stories was very quite empowering me for that time. I understood that so many other people suffer, and it's not just me. So many other people do, and this is a part of life. And when you read these stories, it always comes to a happy ending if you persevere, if you just persevere, no matter how long it takes. For me, it's taken 8 years to get to this point right now, and it's been a very difficult journey, but this year's been absolutely amazing. And I truly believe these stories that get told to us on a frequent basis that we read about are so empowering, that people do suffer, and that's a part of life, to be able to get what you want, to put your head down, use the tools that you can combine with people talking about their story, take something from them and give it to yourself to go forward.
Mm. We spoke about visualization there, and I never got to an elite level in any sport, but always pushed it to a high level, whether it was swimming or soccer or rugby or water polo, and
Yep.
the ability to visualize an outcome and really feel and get emotionally attached to a goal, whilst, like you talked about, at the time, things like that are really hard because you've got such a fog around you. But
yeah,
what sort of things would you used to do as a runner, and do you think that having that skill set in the back of your mind might have just been an extra feather in your cap or a string in your bow, as you might say?
100%. Yeah, an extra string in the bow is yeah. No, I use that as running when I close my eyes before a race. I visualize myself where I wanted to be in that race, and when I was going to overtake someone, when I was going to kick, when I was going to hold back, and kind of visualize the race, how it would unfold. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't unfold that way, but still, you've got an idea. You've got a goal at the end of it. You can kind of see it, and I use that in the hospital. Luckily, I had this beautiful window that looked out to Hagley Park, and it's a beautiful park that they've got there. And I used to just sit in my bed and turn my head to the left-hand side, and I'd just look at the leaves, and I'd pretend I was a leaf just floating in the wind, and just a branch, just feeling the wind across my face that I felt before when I was running. So I use those simple tools because I was locked away in an environment where I wanted to be, and it was like torture. It was there, but I couldn't really feel it. So I just had to really close my eyes and just feel that I was something, a wave of grass in the leaves, someone standing on me, just those different feelings that you kind of get. But the leaf was something that I really pictured myself a lot when I looked outside the window.
Yeah. And what does your meditation look like now?
It's more about gratitude. I like now, it's all about gratitude. I just really embrace how grateful I am for my life and what I have. The simple things of just waking out of bed pain free, the simple things of just walking down the road, that was taken away from me, and being able to breathe, just walk and be inside nature, because that was taken away from me. So, and just having my partner next to me, I thank God every day to wake up next to her. It's just gratitude. That's really my meditation practice right now. 10 to 20 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, but sometimes I just sit there with complete gratitude, and I focus on those things that have unfolded me for that day, for that week, for that month.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. Being immunocompromised, you said nature was taken away from you. How long did you have to be under bubble wrap?
Yeah, the first round of when I was sick, it was like 1 month on, 1 week off. So it was basically 4 to 5 months in hospital I had that time, with about 1 to 2 weeks getting out of hospital. So during that first stint, it was 7 months being in Christchurch. So 5 months in total being locked up in a little isolation room with a pump full of fluids and morphine and red blood cells and chemo and stuff like that strapped next to me.
Nasty. Yeah. And that's where you had the window, was it?
Yeah, the South Island bone marrow unit in the Christchurch Hospital, they have, it's quite a very good setup where they've placed the unit so you can see out to the park, and they did that on purpose too. So patients who have stayed away, they can look out into the window and feel kind of some freedom within themselves.
And how do you connect with your family and friends and stuff while you're there?
Yeah, my friends were fantastic. I'm very fortunate enough to come from a very loving, kind, caring family, and I have some amazing friends in my life who really helped me along. But, too, they didn't understand the situation was, and at that young age, I expected them to. Mm-hmm. But now that I know that they didn't understand, and now I understand that, and I found it hard to talk to them. Hence the reason I just, couldn't talk to anybody. I needed professional help. But they were always there, but I just could not talk to them of what was going on because they just didn't understand. And that's not their fault at all. They just they were probably just as scared as I was. So first step was talking to the psychologist, and then my good friend Ruth. I talk to her a lot. You know, this is what women are great at, talking, and she really opened that box for me at that time. She's one of my best mates, and started talking to her a lot, and then just the psychologist. So it was just small steps, and now I just talk to anyone. Yeah.
No, awesome, mate. So let's go back to Dave. We've had him on the podcast as well, and people have got a taste for the bundles and bundles of knowledge. I think him and I could have spoken for hours and hours, but he's in the same boat as me with a young child, so we had to get away. But when it comes to you and the immune system and the gut, where does his sorts of protocols fit into this massive picture of your type of cancer?
I mean, I can't talk it as technical as Dave, but I mean, he's just an absolute guru. He's had such a big, profound impact on my life, and sitting down and establishing these macronutrient plans and gut protocols and supplements and stuff like that. But basically, he's bringing down the inflammatory load on my body, just eliminating pro-inflammatory foods and things like that. Like your processed carbohydrates, your sugars, your gluten, and just it's actually really simple things, and just establishing a good eating plan, like real foods, vegetables, slow cooked meats, and establishing a really good microbiome. So essentially I had really bad leaky gut, and I had small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and I did like a 16 or 15 month gut protocol with him, and then all of a sudden my eosinophils and basophils and macrophages were just, they were just completely lowered. They were completely lowered, and my treatment was actually becoming more powerful with that. My body was essentially not fighting so much, and I was becoming stronger with his fitness regimes, and the inflammation in my body was just decreasing. And I'm not saying what Dave does cured me, but putting them both together, I think has had such a profound impact. And anyone who's going through any medical issue, I mean, knock on Dave's door and just have a chat to him about what's going on. I can only talk about it, what I've done and what I've got to and where I am right now. I mean, Dave can talk about the science and what goes on with that in a lot more detail and more explanatory science than I can. So yeah, he's just established this body that I've got now that I'm just so grateful for. I never ever thought I'd be in the gym 4 times a week, lifting weights. The first time I went into that gym, I was bench pressing a stick. Now I'm doing 5 sets of 50 kg. Yeah, and I'm just blown away by what Fifth Element and Dave's established there. Yeah.
And I guess it comes back to goal setting. How did you start to those humble days of a stick and move forward? Like, what sort of time frames were you working in?
Making the start is like, we didn't have a time frame. It's like, compare yourself to where you were yesterday, which was, I was depressed, I was weak, I was skinny, I was sick, just had a heart attack. Compare myself to that situation, and that's what I had to go back to. Sometimes I didn't think I was getting anywhere, but Dave reassured me. He goes, go back to the person that walked in that first day when you were bench pressing a stick and couldn't even bend down to touch your knees, because this GVHD had glued up my body, and I was just like the Tin Man walking. And so it was just having that reference point there. So then every day it was just a bonus, and it was just consistency. Those 1%ers you put in, keep up the program, do the hard work, and soon you'll get the rewards. I mean, some take quicker, some take longer. For me, it's taken a bit longer, but what Dave and I, we talk about short-term pain, long-term gain. It's just as simple as that. Yeah. And
what sort of periods of bad pain did you experience after that? Did you ever go too hard or have some setbacks and things like that?
With Dave's program?
Yeah.
No, I didn't really have setbacks. It was more in my mind that I set myself back at. It was just like thinking I needed to happen now. But then it was Dave implying that, think about the person that walked in here that day. I mean, it's going to go peaks and troughs. That's how it goes. And then all of a sudden we took off, and that's how it was. It was a bumpy road at the start. Those gut protocols aren't easy. You're just basically taking everything out and you're eating veggies and meat, and it's all very varied on what you can and can't eat. And, I was watching my family and friends and eat all this nice stuff, and you're withdrawn from that, and you really wanted to, and that's tough. That is tough, but I wanted to get better. I was desperate, and I needed help, and I knew Dave was the man to talk to and help me establish what I have right now.
So you said initially you were in Christchurch. Why did you need to go to Melbourne, or there was just a change of scenery, or what's the deal there?
So I had a allogenic stem cell transplant. This is when I relapsed the second time. And I developed, from an allogenic stem cell transplant, you develop graft rejection, graft versus host disease. Not all patients get it, but I was in the unlucky category, and I got quite severe graft versus host disease, and normal treatment couldn't handle it. My cyclosporin and prednisone and all the other medication they were throwing at me couldn't really suppress it enough to filter out the rejection. So I had to go over to Melbourne to get this special treatment called extracorporeal photopheresis, which is essentially, it's really upregulating my healthy T lymphocytes to try and downregulate the disease T lymphocytes. So it's just a flow-on effect. The treatment itself is like a form of dialysis, but it's more specific in regards to targeting the white blood cells that needed to be targeted to try and downregulate this graft versus host disease that was essentially killing me.
So when you say disease, these are the ones that are attacking that sort of graft tissue?
Yeah. So the goal is to try and make a flow-on effect. So all of a sudden you're getting more healthy cells, and the disease cells are getting deregulated, and then it becomes innate. So the healthy cells see it, and then they attack it naturally. But then having Dave's protocols and that's just reduced the inflammation in my body, and it just made it easier for the treatment to work. It wasn't fighting it so hard. Dave did his part, the medical part did that part, and here I am talking to you today, Ryan, a happy man. Yeah.
Lovely, mate. So where are you in terms of cancer now? What's your time frame, and what's so far your outlook?
So, I mean, I've been told different things about my cancer and that, but, I'm cancer free, but there's always a chance of relapse, but I don't see that happening whatsoever. It doesn't even come to my mind, but I have this graft versus host disease, which can flare up at any time because I've had my whole immune system, my stem cells have basically come from another girl. So that I know that can flare up any time, but with what I'm doing and the treatment, the way it's going, I mean, it's just, the body's too good. The body's too good to go backwards right now. So I'm very, very good right now, and I'm very grateful for what I have, definitely so very grateful.
Lovely. So you've just been, speaking of Wim Hof, you've been into some real cold in Austria. What took you over to that wonderful country, man?
Yeah, it's a story in itself, Ryan. Lucky. I mean, I've been flying back and forth to Melbourne. I lived there essentially for 8 months, and then they started flying me back and forth. And on one trip, I met this girl called Sybil. She was from Switzerland, and I sat next to her. It was the first time I've ever sat next to a pretty girl on a plane. And what Dave had been doing for me, I've become more confident in myself. So I just thought I'd say hello. My anxiety and my depression had been not completely gone, but it was a lot better. So I said, hello, how are you? And she replied to me, and we had a chat, and she said, what am I doing? I said, I'm going to see my brother, which was true, but a bit of a lie. And then she told me she was an oncology nurse, a cancer nurse from Switzerland. And then so I told her about my treatment, and she's like, oh, wow, I've never heard of that, cool. And I was like, oh, do you want to come and see it?
Yeah.
And she said, oh, yeah, sure. Why not? And I thought she was just being polite, and she'd go up to a motel and not turn up. But sure enough, the next morning, here she was outside my hotel ready to go. And it's the first time ever my treatment got delayed. Normally it was at 10 a.m. It got delayed to 1 p.m. So we had the whole morning to hang out. And yeah, we hung out and we had a lot in common. She was so much into holistic health and what I was doing with Fifth Element, what we've just been talking about, and the Wim Hof method. And we had this really common ground with one another. So we hung out for the week, and we ended up having a wee kiss. And then I said, I'll see you later. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, she flew over to Greymouth to see me over here and hang out. And then one thing led to another, and she moved over here. And so she's moving here for 2 years now, lived here for 2 years. And I flew over a month ago to meet her family and see her family and see what her life was about. And I got on one knee up on Jungfrau Joch on the top of Switzerland there and proposed to her, and she said yes. So,
beautiful.
yeah, mate. I mean, just amazing what can happen when you just turn your head and say hello, eh? You know, it's just, yeah. I mean, look, like I go back to that situation, Ryan, and here I am. All the pigmentation had been taken from my face. You know, I'm no oil painting whatsoever. You know, I'm getting cancer treatment, but yet someone who I connected with, she didn't look at me physically. She looked inside myself and saw who I was from my heart. And, you know, that's what we really resonated with. And she's just such a beautiful human who's just, her love has probably empowered me more than anything to be here right now today from those past 2.5 years that we've been together. You know, it's just one powerful ingredient, you know, from my treatment to what Dave's doing and the Wim Hof, you know, I would say Sybil's the top of the list on that one, you know. So, yeah.
Right, it's you know, you've not quite had a movie made about your life, but they should, because that is a brilliant story in itself. But mate, you've written it down, you put it into a book.
Yep.
Before we touch on that, how does Switzerland compare to the mountains of the West Coast? Who wins out, do you think?
I'd say the coast, mate. The coast, you know, it's too good over here, Ryan. You know, mate. Yeah, they got beautiful mountains, no doubt about that. But their infrastructure, what they've incorporated into the mountains, makes it quite unique to me. Here over here, as you know, it's just so raw and real, which I really love. But it's just a different beauty in a way. But you know, home is always home. Home is where the heart is. So
Yeah,
I
can relate to that, having just come back. So yeah, the book, The Wind at My Back, is that right? Oh, there it goes. The Wind at My Back, Josh Komen.
Yep.
And it's on your website, isn't it?
Yeah, joshkomen.com. It's up there. It's just I just released it on Amazon on ebook and Kindle. So
fantastic. Yeah. And any bookshops in New Zealand have picked it up, or?
Yeah. It's all around New Zealand. A lot of Whitcool stores and Paper Plus and mainstream bookshops and stuff. So yeah.
Right. So, what are they in for in reading that? You know, life's never linear. So.
No, it's not. Everyone's got their own story, you know, and it took me a while to actually establish the confidence to kind of write it. But one day something said, no, you just have to write this, because a lot of people I was talking to were like, well, you know, for me, it just became, this is my normal daily life. This was normal for me. It was so normalized. And a lot of people were getting a lot out of what I was telling them. So one day I just picked up the pen and I just started writing. Then it was on the computer, and now we've got the product, what we have. And the story is basically, it's a memoir of cancer, love and endurance, and all the people that have helped me in my life to get to be where I am right now. Hence the name, The Wind. I've got a great connection to the wind when I was in hospital and things, and the wind kind of represents that. But also too, the people that have been there advocating for me and patting me on the back, the likes of yourself, Mark Claude, Dave O'Brien, you know, my family, my friends, all them. So it's not just about me. It's about those people that have really helped me get to be in the position where I am.
Yeah, and so you said, in terms of going back to the depression, you picked up a pen to start writing. Then what was your process in terms of going about writing a book? You said paper, computer, like what did it look like?
Yeah, well, that's a process in itself. I thought it'd be quite easy, but normally when I was in the cancer realm, when I was in my isolation, it was just diary writing, and it was just like a lot of negative stuff getting vented outside of me into pen, and just how I was feeling that day, and then putting it back into story. It was kind of like, I've talked about it so much, it just came out naturally of what I went through. And what I did was I just wrote this about 82,000 words, I think it was. And I was like, shivers, that just poured out. Okay, what do I do with this now? And so I looked up on New Zealand authors, and I tried to find an editor that could help me cross the T's and dot the I's. And soon enough, I found this amazing lady, Jane Bizzle, who helped me structure it up and send it off to a few publishers and things like that. And finally, one took it up, Mary Egan Publishing, amazing group of people who live up on the North Shore of Auckland. Got the product we've got today. But yeah, it took me about 18 months to get it to where it is right now. But it was a great process, you know. Once it was finished, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder too.
And so you spoke about having an editor there to, you know, make it into some sort of product that's fit for a shelf.
Yep.
What are the really valuable things of that process?
What I should have done, or
No, like what sort of good feedback or good tricks and stuff comes out of using somebody's expertise that's in the knowledge of writing
I
books?
think, yeah, it's like anything. You go to a personal trainer, they know it inside out, so they know what they're doing. You've got a rough idea of how to write, but they know how to compound it into one actual book. I had a heap of words scrambled on a bit of paper that made sense, but not much sense to a lot of other people. So having her wisdom and guidance with me, like putting everything together was, that needed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just her knowledge within the New Zealand author kind of realm and the publishers and stuff. She knew a lot of people and what nots and what do's to do and things like that. So, she was just like a really good mentor, a very, very good mentor.
Great. And you said, you found a publisher. What was the response back for people that saw the draft of it? What did they sort of think?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually got this book to maybe about 16. It was 16 mainstream publishers who got to their, there was like 3 steps you went through. And I got to the final step in most of them, but then from a financial aspect, they kind of declined the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all declined it. And then I had to go independent. So I had to kind of pay them to publish it for me. And so I raised a bit of money and that took a bit of time and stuff. And the 3 women that I got, they took it on board and said, wow, this is amazing. We're very grateful that you shared your story with us. And they just love it. And they've done a fantastic job. I mean, probably it's the best way it should have gone. Seeing these doing it with Mary Egan and all them, they did so good and they were so clear in communicating of what I should be doing and what's going on, designing the cover and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so you said, it may be the best way it should be done. And do you think having a little bit of skin in the game in terms of getting the book out there and getting it sold, adds a little bit of motivation to putting you talk about anxiety and, getting yourself out there to go, hey, Josh Komen, I've been through a lot, I've written a book about it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I didn't really realise how big the book would be. The first week it was number 2 on the bestsellers list here in New Zealand. And, I got all this TV coverage and all this, and I didn't anticipate any of it whatsoever. It was just a book that I could maybe give to the Cancer Society or Canteen or anyone who I kind of met who wanted some help or just what I did and to get some, because I know how much powerful a story can be. That was originally what I wrote it, and maybe for my family too, because I thought, if something does happen to me, they've got something to read about me. But it was nice to get one up over the mainstream publishers. All of a sudden I was on the number 2 bestseller and it was like, yeah, you get your fist up and got one over you boys.
No, mate.
So there was a little fist pump there. So there was a bit of, so once they neglected me and I got those girls on board, I was pretty keen to get it out there and just give one them.
No, that's superb, mate. Kiwis, we love underdogs, so especially ones from the coast, mate. That's fantastic.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
You said the writing that you had in your diary was often sort of getting negative thoughts out of the way.
Yep.
Were you, reading back on it, were you sort of shocked at yourself, or was it kind of like, wow, that was, man, I've come through something? Well, what was the sort of emotion of going back through it?
Yeah, it was a real mixed bag, Ryan. It really was. It was like, there was a lot of tears while I was writing it because I had to relive that situation again and put myself there. And sometimes when I talk about it now, I kind of get a bit shaken up. But yeah, it was a healing process too. It was definitely healing, and a lot of smiling as well. I was like, man, how did you do that? How did you do that? And I still ask myself that question today. Sometimes I can't pinpoint a definite answer, but yeah, there was definitely a mixed bag of emotions of laughing and crying and yeah, a lot of different things back and forth.
Mate, you must have some immense pride in yourself because, like you say, how did I do that? Shit, that was me. I did that. Mate,
Yeah.
you brought up canteen there. For, it's something in New Zealand. Going through school, you hear about all the time. The All Blacks get along, and the bandana week and all that sort of stuff. What really is canteen for someone that's used their services, and why is it just one of those things that we really should always get behind?
Yeah, it's definitely an amazing organisation for the young people. I think there's a certain age that it kind of caters to. I'm not too sure what that age is, but for the young people who really don't understand what cancer is, and like I mentioned before, their friends don't understand, but yet this canteen foundation do, and they're full of young, lively people who have been impacted indirectly or directly through cancer, and they're just like a helping hand through the process. And for those young people who are so confused about what's going on, this is not right for a young person to be able to go through cancer and things like that. And a lot of your friends obviously don't understand, as we talked before, but canteen do in a way. They really do, and they establish a new community, and community is very powerful, as you and I both know. So it's basically a young person's cancer community where they can feel safe, where they can feel comfortable, where they can relate, where they can share stories, and where they can help one another.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so, do you have much involvement there now? Like what sort of happens now with you in that relationship?
Yeah, I'm always trying to do what I can for canteen. I've done a few fundraisers and stuff like that, holding a bucket. But next week I'm going over there in Christchurch to do a wee talk about my story, and it's a big evening for canteen and that. So for me, I'm trying to do what I can with my book and stuff like that. But I'm always willing to do what I can for any foundation that wants to help someone else who's going through something in their life, whatever it may be, cancer, no cancer. I just want to help other people who may be struggling in different departments in their life.
Mate, awesome. So you're engaged now. What's the outlook?
It's just day by day. I don't know. I've got a new boss in my life, mate. So I just listen to her, and she tells me what to do. No, I will just see how this year goes, how this book unfolds. I might get into the speaking kind of platform. I'm not too sure. But I'm just concentrating on my health and my relationship with Sybil, and just going from there. Those small things in life that really, really matter. Sybil's so important to me, and I just want to focus each day around her and what I'm doing for my health and for my life and for our future together.
And burning question: Can you run now, mate?
Oh, mate, no, I can't. I can do a little sprint here and there for maybe 10 or 20 meters, but I'm trying to work myself up to that point. I don't think it's too far away, but I don't think Dave O'Brien will be too happy with me trying to run at this stage yet. Yeah, it's the old saying, you got to walk before you can run, and it's going to be a slow process, but I do believe I'll get back to some kind of running stage at some point in my life, but now's not the time.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you listened to Joe Rogan, but he was talking with CD Fletcher, who's at the other end of his life, and he's had a heart transplant, and he said, I was in a car park, I thought, I could run, and then he collapsed. And so
learn the hard way, eh?
Learn the hard way. I don't think it was pretty by all accounts, but he learned the hard way to just keep walking a little bit.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm sure this has sparked the interest of many, many people, and I'm going to have all your links, as many as I can find, in the show notes. But where's the main spots to track you down?
No, cheers. Thanks, Ryan.
You'd be on Instagram mostly. That's how we connected.
Yeah. I'm Instagram, the Facebook. I've got the website, joshkomen.com, and email jkomencontact@gmail.com. Pretty easy. Like you said before, someone in New Zealand's always connected, so maybe word of mouth's even better.
Nice, mate. So what I usually do to finish off is get people just to share something that's either kept them going, they live their life by, or a thought, or even a question of people to sort of ask themselves, either rhetorically or to reach out to you and answer back to you. What would you like to sort of leave us with?
Oof. I mean, there's a whole heap of host of things, but I love quotes. I love those, you know, single line quotes that when I get flustered for the day or I'm struggling, you know, and maybe one in particular is, let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action. So that kind of sums me up at the minute. You know, I just want to lead by example. I don't want to be telling anyone what they can and can't do. I just want to be doing what I'm doing. And if people want to pick their head up and see what I'm doing, then all the better. You know, I'm not one to push anyone into a direction they don't want to do. I believe in choice, and if they see me doing something, then all good. So let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action. That's out of John 3-18.
Wicked, mate. And
yeah, mate.
We've often talked about, you know, social media can be a bad thing or a good thing, and I don't think you can go wrong with somebody that lives their life by that, buddy, doing their thing, setting a good example, and you know, I love checking out your page and getting a little bit of inspiration to live a good life myself. So yeah, thanks so much.
Hey, no, mate, thanks very much for meeting out for you. You know, Marky's talked a lot about you too, and he's like, he's a fantastic bloke, mate. You got to have a chat to him. He's a fantastic bloke. And yeah, I've listened to a few of your podcasts, mate. So you're doing a fantastic job with what you're doing, eh? Just having conversations with amazing people, mate, and just spreading the word, you know, just like you say, you know, but in truth and action, just talking, just having a chat, and then people take what they can from it.
Thanks so much, mate. We'll leave it there and finish up.
Hey, and all the best with your daughter too, mate. All the best with Billy, man. That's great. And I'm great you're back in the homeland too.
Thanks so much, mate. We'll leave it there.
Cheers, Ryan.